Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in to us or with us today from wherever you are. And ultimately, this is Thursday, August 28th, and I am hoping that you're having an already outstanding day. And that today our topic is how to keep it alive and discovering what the it is. And that it gets lost in the minutia of the daily events and in the habituation of just going through, and it's a subtle change that takes place. And what we're going to dive into today is what is this habituation that removes the passion, the gratitude, the appreciation for the it, whatever the it is for you. It could be your love, it could be your home, it could be your job, it could be the contribution that you bring to the world that only you can bring. And a subtle loss of appreciation, gratitude, or inspiration that really is the vitality of our life. It's the lifeblood of our purpose. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm your host, Stanley Dietrich, with 360 Life Without Limits, and I am joined with my co-host Tracy Borson. And we're really going to dive into this. So, Tracy, how are you today? And tell us about how your week's been.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to respond to that question based on our topic for today about keeping it alive. So I do this walk every morning. I have a new investment in 10,000 steps a day. Go out in the morning and I do a walk. Yesterday it was pouring rain and I still went out and did my walk, and my pants are still not dry from doing it. But it just was a really good reminder that there's like constant opportunities for us to get distracted and turn things into doing because I'm supposed to do them, because I should do them, instead of like taking those moments and actually like embracing them and letting them be extraordinary. And so it was really funny because it was pouring and it was cold, it was windy, it was not ideal walking conditions, let's put it that way. But I was like listening to my music and like walking really tall, and water's like dripping off my hood, and I had done a good job to keep my electronics undercover. But it felt so good. And most people, it would have been very easy for me to say, I'm not going to walk today. One, because the weather was terrible, but also Nicholas woke up, my son, for those of you who don't know, much earlier than he normally does. And so he was awake. And so I couldn't go when I was planning to go. I had to wait until there was someone else to watch him, and then I could go. But I still went and I still had fun. And then it was hilarious what I was after. And then today, like, I have pretty long legs. I walk at like a decent pace, but this lady just like just like blew past me. And it was so funny because my immediate response to that was that I'm supposed to go faster. I should be going that speed. And like, not because I wanted to think that, but because those thoughts just popped into my head. And then I was like, but she's not going where I'm going. So why would I try to like do her when I know what it looks like, and more importantly feels like, to do me, and I can just like, I'll do my walk. And it just was, again, like a good reminder that these external influences are constantly coming in to distract us from choosing extraordinary, choosing ourselves, actively choosing, and instead pushes us towards chasing. Right? And we're chasing something that is outside of us. And so I feel great because today I feel like I am not chasing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And today we're talking about habituation and how habituation really sneaks in. And what is habituation? It is the continual going through a routine and then losing our passion, our vitality, our zest, our gratitude for that. And it can sneak in. And this is where, we talk about discovering and learning how to dehabituate in the same manner. So if you habituate and you've got a great relationship, it didn't start out that way. It built up to that point. And let's just walk through the Cinderella process. You're you're cleaning floors all day long. You got three wicked stepsisters, and you're mopping, you're doing the laundry, you're doing the dishes, you got a wicked stepmom, and then what happens is there's a ball. There's something that you want. There's a desire to be someplace. And you get your wish and you get to go to the ball, but you got to leave before the clock strikes 12. Well, what happens is we have that fairy tale dream for many of us who have been married, and for those that aren't married, well, I won't tell you that I'm single and I'm taking applications. But anyway, okay, so just a little humor there. Got to throw that in. But the idea of it is, but I am single. But anyway, but the idea is to keep that vitality, keep that novelty from taking root. So we have that first dinner, and I remember asking you to describe to me the environment when you met Carter. And did you tell me about how fancy the dishes were, or how nice everybody was sitting, and the conversation that you observed from the table across the way? Did you tell me anything about that?
No. And
No.
also, we were in a pub, so none of that was true.
Okay. Okay.
There were no fancy dishes. I couldn't tell you what I drank. Right? I do remember that we were just having drinks because we were supposed to have lunch, and then I had a baseball tournament. So I was like, how about dinner instead? And he's like, how about drinks, just in case you don't like me that much? Now we're married. So.
And you didn't get married directly following the drinks?
No, we did not.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
That would have been good, though. We did have a 3-hour conversation, which felt just like totally natural.
So you got lost in the moment, and that's when that experience of vitality, gratitude, appreciation really sparked up. Were you able to go home and just fall right asleep?
That I don't know. Probably.
Okay.
Although I would tell you most nights I fall right to sleep because I'm so tired.
Okay. Did you share your experience with other people about what an amazing date it was, or did you just keep it to yourself and it's just like, I went to dinner. I went to have drinks. He didn't even buy me dinner. I just bought me drinks. What a cheap date, right?
Well, I mean, everybody's story is different. I was like, I've been divorced, and so I was trying to keep my like dating life just like to myself because I was trying to create like a completely different relationship than the one I had. And so, no. Although I feel like I was bursting to tell people that, but I did not.
Okay. So what happens is that we go through that. Everybody loves a Cinderella story because we see ourselves in that position. One day, somebody discovers our beauty, our vitality, our contribution, and we meet that person, or we get that job, or we move into that home, or we buy that new car. It's always amazing that I see these ads where somebody buys a new car and they get a picture taken with a salesman, and they got this great big smile on their face, and then they own the car for 4, 5, 6 months, and that newness kind of wears off.
I had a dream since I was a little girl that I was going to have a red Mercedes. And 6 years ago, we got a red Mercedes. And now I can't wait to get rid of that car because we've had so many problems with it. To be fair, it was like refurbed and it was in a fire, and that's why we got a really good price on it and everything. But this is an interesting component of this concept of it, because I think a lot of times we place importance on things like that, like a red Mercedes, and then you get it and you're like, woo, meh.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't have anything to do with my vitality as a human. It's just I think I saw a cool picture of one once when I was a little kid and thought that would be a cool card.
Right.
Meh. And I think a lot of times in our human experience, we put, even in like how you were framing that, Stanley, like you find the person, the job, like that's not, I feel like my access to that kind of vitality comes in not believing that there's one place that that's available, right? Like I can't just find love and inspiration from my husband. I can find love and inspiration from lots of people. Now, is it romantic, intimate love? No, that's saved for him. But there's access to different components of things that are available in lots of places. And like, I'd love to hear what you think about this, but for me, it's almost always in people where I find that access. Smiling at somebody on the street, or having a conversation with someone, or talking to one of my like walking buddies today who was also out walking in the rain yesterday, and he was like, oh, it's much nicer out today. I'm like, yes, it is. Even in the like sharing with, when I came back yesterday, my dad was like, there must be nobody out there. And I'm like, actually, most of the like regular walkers are out there walking in the rain. But also because like we do it for us. We don't do it for you. We don't do it because someone else thinks I should walk in the morning. I don't do it because I'm part of some 5 a.m. club that dictates that I do that, right? I do that for me. And I know I do it for me. And so I choose to do it for me, even if it's raining. But that almost always is like proven in an interaction with another person. I don't know about your experience with that.
Yeah. So that appreciation and that vitality, as we understand what habituation is, it's that proclivity to get used to it and let it become a normal where it's no longer supernatural, no longer super normal. It's just like the dinner date. Okay. You left excited. You wanted to share that with other people. Now, what happens, and I've seen this happen so often, and it happened in my own life, probably multiple times, that you get to that point where it's like, who is this person sitting across from me? You know, what do we even have in common? Because it got so used to, you got so used to an environment, or so used to it being normal, that it was no longer super normal. And we miss the beauty of it. It's kind of like pulling down the driveway. I remember the first time I built my home. So the home that I live in, I built. And when the pavement was done and it was fresh and there were no cracks in it, right? And there were no cracks in the wall. And we brought the furnishings into the home. And behind my house was this great big oak tree. And I didn't realize that the roots are surface roots, and if they get drove on by excavators, then it kills the tree eventually. Well, this tree was massive, 75, 85 feet tall. It went off in 3 different directions. So when you pulled down the driveway and you pulled into it, this massive oak tree was behind it. And then as the time went on, 3, 4 years later, the bigger branches started to die off. And when one fell, I said, the tree's got to come down, because I realized what had happened. And I didn't realize at the time that as the excavator drove over the surface, oxygen roots that were just below the surface had been damaged. And that created damage further up, and it went unknown. So this is, when the habituation comes in, it doesn't have a bunch of fanfare. It just becomes in gradual, where I don't appreciate this as much. It's not getting as much energy as I once gave it, or it's getting. And that tree came down and it made great firewood, but that wasn't what I built the house around. And so when we build our house, this temple around something, and we allow the little foxes to destroy the vine, and we don't dehabituate, everything's going great. And then all of a sudden you have a blow up, and it's like, what happened? And then you have,
well, and I think it is, even in that lead up, is that even true? Like, if you're really looking at it, was everything going great? Actually, not things going great. It's just things being average, and we expect things to be average. So everything has been average, and then you have a blow up because things are not great. And I think that the thing that I find with the example with the tree is that the excavator rolling over the roots, it permanently damaged the tree. There was no saving the tree after that. But for us, we actually have the capability every day to go out and look for beauty, to look for connection, to look for opportunity, to look for possibilities. And so when we switch that, I think I've talked about it before on the show. I call it the Dodge Caravan phenomenon. Right? Where like you can go about your day and absolutely not notice how many Dodge Caravans are driving around on the road. And then you can be like, I wonder how many Dodge Caravans there are. This is actually, I did this once, which is why I use it as an example. And there are so many. Right? There's a lot. I was counting them and I'm like, okay, I get you, universe. There's a lot of Dodge Caravans. But I couldn't see them because I wasn't looking for them. My son all of a sudden is into Dodge Durangos, which is funny because we drive Mercedes. Everybody's looking for Dodges. But so now he sees them everywhere because he's looking for them.
Right.
And this is how the human brain works, right? We see things that we're looking for. And so if we're looking for average, or we believe that having a quote unquote good relationship or a quote unquote good job or whatever is for things to feel gray and average, then that is what we will look for. And eventually, because our souls are not being fed by anything, then yeah, there's going to be blowups from either you or someone else in your close surrounding areas. And so we have the ability, we just have to make the choice to look for beauty, vitality, abundance, and these types of things. And I just don't think we're looking for them that often.
Yeah, I would travel 16 hours to either go to the ocean or go to a mountain. And when I'd go to ski in Colorado, I would ask people, that were in town. I said, "So are you a skier?" "No." And I'm like, "What?"
I live 2 hours away from the Rocky Mountains, and I'm not a skier either.
Oh, we got some talking to do.
To be fair, I had a thing with ligament problems in my knees when I was young. I was not supposed to do parallel sports, which includes skiing, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Anyway, that does not mean I do not appreciate the beauty of the mountains and that I do not go to the mountains and that I walk around the mountains. It just means that I'm not a skier.
Right. And when we bring it closer to home, we can overlook the things that excited us at one time. And even when we bring it close to home, we can overlook our own self because the novelty has worn off. We've gone the same route. We get up the same way. We get on the.
But is that too an expectation? Because I have this trouble with geese around my lake. There are 57 Canadian geese who have decided to live in this. It's not, when I say the lake, it is not a big lake. It is 1.5 kilometers around it. It's not big. It's a little lake. And it's got 57 geese. I counted them one day because it seemed like a lot. There's a lot of Canadian geese. And they're not that nice. They're pretty aggressive.
They're mean. Yeah, they're vicious.
They are mean animals. And so I have this challenge with the geese, right? And there were a lot of days where I would get really frustrated because the geese are running the lake and all I want to do is walk in my loop around the lake. And then one day I decided to be part of the lake with the geese, right? The geese get the lake and I get the lake and we share the lake. And if we're working as a team, then we can make this work. Okay. And it was incredible. Now, this hasn't happened every day since, but on that day when I made that decision, I was walking along the path and the geese were they don't just hang out they stand on the path. There's lots of other places they could stand, but they like to stand right on the path. So I'm coming up and I'm walking and I'm I'm staying on the path. I'm staying on the path today. And the geese just like walked off the path. And I walked by and we like worked together in complete peace. And I was like, I think it is more common to just say, like, if I get up and I do the same morning routine every day, that's going to become habituated.
Yes.
But I also don't think that that's necessarily true, because I can get up and I could do my same morning routine, walking, which is part of my morning routine, and I can appreciate it every day. I can find the beauty in it every day. I can find the teamwork in it every day. Like, at least once a week, probably more, I stop walking to take a picture of the sunrise because it looks beautiful and it should be recorded. Like, there's opportunity in things we expect to be habitual. And if we like flip our mindset to say, like, yeah, I do that every day. I do that every day. And it's awesome. And it's extraordinary. And it's supernatural. I think there's a possibility there.
See,
I mean, personally.
That's perfectly fine. And this is where the beauty comes in. And this is where I would challenge you, because you are designed to be a creator.
I am a tornado of creation, I've been told.
Creator of newness. And so I challenge people to brush their teeth with the opposite hand. Because as you do that, you're creating new neural networks in your brain.
Oh, and like, this is an interesting thing, though, I will share, is that I do not walk the same loop every day. So I get up and I do a walk. Sometimes I do 45 minutes. Sometimes I do an hour, depending on how much time I have. There was one day I did 20 minutes because that was all the time I had. I had a super early morning meeting, but I do it every day. Sometimes I listen to my Spotify playlist. Sometimes I listen to a Peloton trainer. Sometimes I walk around the lake. Sometimes I don't walk around the lake. So there, again, I think there's different levels of habituation, I guess I would say. There are those things where you're like, I go to the same restaurant every Friday for dinner. And like, personally, I'm the worst at eating the same things over and over. I cannot do it. I would rather, although I do have peanut butter and banana for breakfast most days, but that's because I have different things throughout the rest of the day to balance it out. So I think even in those examples, right, like, we look at what could be habituation for one person is maybe not habituation for another person, but also if we are created as creative beings, what are we doing that is allowing us to express that creativity and the newness that you called? But also, what do we do that makes us feel supported and stable? Because I also think there's a lot of stress living in like the growth, change, newness zone all the time. Like, most of us will brush our teeth every day. One, it's good dental health. Okay. But like, is it bad to brush your teeth every day? No, it's not bad to brush your teeth every day. But what other combination is that in, right? Like, is it the same? I remember reading this book, Outwitting the Devil, by Napoleon Hill. Yeah. And it talks about hypnotic rhythm.
Yes.
And I love that phrase because it is based on us not thinking. It's based on us just doing the repeatable things, which to me is habituation, without thinking about it. It's us getting in our car and sitting in traffic for X amount of hours a day and not asking, could this be different? Do I like this? What do I like about this? Would I want to move closer to the office? Would I want to? My husband and I moved out of the city because we were like, we don't want to deal with that. We just like we get in like patterns of doing, and it's very common with moms in particular, because moms are like, I get up, I do the thing, I get the kids breakfast, I get the kids dressed, I take the kids to school, I go get the groceries, I go do the laundry, I pick the kids up from school. And it's just like very, very habituated. And if our brain is asking, hey, how does that feel? Do I feel good about all of this? And our answer authentically is yes, then peace be with you all. Go do you, right? But if your answer is no,
Right.
and I think the problem is that most people aren't asking the question. They aren't asking the question in this day, in this habit, in this commute, in this whatever, does it make me feel bigger, awesome, sparkly, whatever word you want to use? Does it make me feel like this is the life I want to have? And if the answer is no, there's probably some like little tiny things you can start changing that will allow you to move in the direction of awesomeness. You don't have to be like Tracy and never eat the same meal twice in 1 week and never walk the same path twice. um, there's a different version for you that probably works, but are you looking for it or not?
So when you can break up the novelty, and I love how you brought that up. So let's take your routine. So you get up, you get the kids up, you take them to school, you go grocery shopping, you do the laundry, you put it away, you make the dinner, you put the dishes into the dishwasher.
You give the kids a bath, you put them in their jammies, you read them a story, and then pretty
already,
soon it's 9 o'clock and you're like, what did I do for myself today?
exactly. So here's where I would say this is what happens is that we get stuck into this routine and it's a habit. And each one of the triggers that leads up to it. So the alarm goes off. So you go, I got to get up. Once your feet hit the floor, your brain says, you know what you got to do? You got to go get the kids up. Once you get the kids up, it's, hey, it's time to make the breakfast. So you go through this rote kind of routine, get in the car, you drive the same route, you go to the grocery store because it's on the way home, you pick up a couple things for dinner, whatever, you create a plan, you clean up the dishes, then you jump on all these calls, and then you go pick up the kids, and then you come home and you make dinner and you clean the dishes up, and oh my God, there's laundry in the dryer that needs to be folded.
Usually if it's me, there's laundry in the washer that you forgot all day. And you're wondering, do I need to rewash this or will it be fine?
So the idea is that what could you do to change that up? What is your favorite song? Could you put that favorite song on when you're getting the kids up? Like I used to dance into the kids' room and just wake them up and tickle them. And then we dance all the way to the bathroom and then make fun of it. And like there would be times when the environment wasn't great, and I'd walk out and I'd come back in and I'd announce myself and I'd do like Ricky Ricardo on the Lucille Ball show. Lucy, I'm home. And and the kids would come running and make something different about it. Take a different route to the grocery store. And I challenged my clients. So I have clients that will walk and they will get their steps in, they will walk. And I said, okay, here's your project. You have to walk a different route. You have to walk backwards, not backwards physically, but you have to walk the different
opposite.
way.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell me what you notice differently. And it's amazing what they see differently. Now, when you get yourself ready in the morning, I want to say that a majority of people, I want to say probably 90% of people, because there's always going to be one that's going to say, no, I do that. So kudos to you. Okay.
This isn't actual market research, folks. It's an estimate.
When they look in the mirror and they get themselves ready, they're putting stuff on. They're not looking in. They're looking what's on the outside. Is my hair right? Like, is it? I don't want to mess it up.
I've experimented with this because I'm like, how often when I look in the mirror, am I looking in my eyes? It's a very small percentage of the time. And I'm more intentional as a person. So like, let's imagine how often anyone else is looking in their eyes. It's actually much less than you look in other people's eyes. Right? Like if you're looking at your kid and you're trying to get their attention, you're probably looking at their eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you look in your own eyes when you're looking in the mirror?
Right.
Not a lot.
Not a lot, because it becomes intentional now. Now, if you watch a child, my granddaughter last year discovered her image in a mirror. And oh my God, it was so amazing. I mean, she found, and she was just like having a conversation, and she was just like having this whole experience, and it was amazing. And what happens in so many different aspects of life is that we get habituated into overlooking the incredible and the eccentric, and we start to look around us, and we start to look at the path that we've got to go instead of the surrounding environment that is all around us. And how often do we miss things? And I was on a call yesterday. No, on Tuesday, I was on a call, and the coordinator, who is Jill Tinney with Collaboration Global, and I love her, is that I noticed her hairstyle was different. Now, it was probably 2 solid weeks since I've been on a call with her, but I noticed that it was different. And I noticed these things. Like, I'll notice when a girl or when a woman gets highlights or gets a weave put in their hair, and I have an eye for detail. And so we're on a 2-hour call, and I notice it like immediately. And I couldn't help myself at the end, towards the end of the call, and put it in. Hey, I consider myself an observant person, and it looks like you got your hairstyle different, and it makes you glow. Now, I wasn't hitting on Jill. I have a great respect for her, but it's when we notice other people, now that habituation cannot take place, because we're forcing ourselves to see something that has always been there, but we've missed it. And when you don't look in your eyes, that person is always there, but we miss them. Maybe it's that relationship that somebody's in. Maybe it's your unique gifting that has always been there. And somebody says, Tracy, my gosh, you have an amazing smile. I remember telling you what an amazing smile you had. And that's when you shared with me about your gum with you. And I'm like, here I was complimenting, and immediately you were able to share. And thankfully you did, because we know the story that everything
We've
worked
told
out.
the story a whole bunch of times.
Yeah. So the idea is that when we begin to take notice of what's always been there, and we can see again for the first time, that's when habituation can't take place. This is a relationship. This is a job. This is a degree.
Well, and this is okay, because I feel like I have a personal proclivity to look for like other people's sparkle. And like when people talk about, I remember a boss of mine once saying about my ex, about the two of us being together, that she was like, you sparkle less when you're together. And I was like, that is terrible. Why am I spending so much time with people who make me sparkle less? What about the people who make me sparkle more? Where are they? Right? Like, I'm going to go find them. And since I was a little kid, right, like on the playground at school, like I noticed the people playing by themselves, and like this is just like part of who Tracy is. But I see the sparkle, but also you can tell when people are. I use color as a reference a lot of times. When people are being gray, right? Like when people are just like meh. And like, I believe that there's so much sparkle in all of us that I just like go out in the world and I'm like, turn it on, people, let's go. I'm like a match, and I'm just going to go around and like light other people up, which is like fun for me. But I think part of the problem, yes, I'm keeping my Lego alive. You guys see it. Nope, this side. Opposite. Lego lights me up, folks. And if it lights you up too, then that's awesome. But how often, one, we look in the mirror and look for our own sparkle. Even I don't do that as often as I probably could. But two, it's like it's like society has convinced us that gray is fine. Like everything we want to go for in this life is gray. Be in this box. You want to have a house and 2 kids and 2 cars and blah 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 blah. And I remember at one point in my life, like not the 2 kids part because I only have one, but like having what society told me I should want to have, and thinking like, what is this? What my life is going to be like? Like this is not good enough. And there's so much like marketing. It's part of the problem because marketing is really great at telling you what you're missing in your life. You should have this, and you should have this, and you should have this, and you should have this. But like when we can look at the things that we have and be like, no, I don't care about that. I care about personal health, as an example. Right? Okay, what can I do to improve my personal health, which might look different than your personal health? We go out in the world and we look for those things, just like the Dodge Caravan. Now all of a sudden we're looking for things and they're there. Mm-hmm. And so we can find the things and then we gain our personal health. And we're like, wow, I really want a great professional health, right? Like I want good career health. I feel like I have this career and it's okay, right? Like I put a lot of years into it, blah, blah, blah. But that's not really what I want. I want something more radiant. When we are looking for that, then we can find that. I go out and I look for people's sparkle. That's why I can find it, right? That's because I'm looking for it. And I think one of the most powerful things people could do out of this conversation today is just look at their life, right? Look at your relationships, look at your job, look at your relationship with your kids, right? Look at your to-do list and just, what are you looking for? Are you looking for stuff to do? Because if you're looking for stuff to do, that it will find you. I used to do a lot of conversation about like time management because a lot of people ask me how I do all of the things that I do. Like I make time for what's important to me. And I believe I have enough time for the things that are important to me. And so often Nicholas, who is 6, he will say to me like, are we in a rush? And my response will always be, we have time. Because if you feel like we're in a rush, it's going to take much longer to get through whatever emotions we're dealing with right now. If you feel like we have time, then we have time. We actually make time. We choose to do the things in the amount of time that we have. And we're just not making those choices, most of us, on a daily basis. And I mean, we have the opportunity multiple times in a day, but we're not making those choices. And if we're going to talk about the all-encompassing it in the title of the show, right? Like, how do we keep it alive, which is whatever it is for you? Like, you've got to look at what you're doing today that is not keeping it alive. Things that are actually contributing to killing it. Right. And you're doing those things that most of us, even me, even Stanley, right? I'm sure there's things that we are doing that contribute to it not being accomplished or achieved. And only by getting like super curious about what those things are and also taking away the ego from like, well, that's just me. That's how I do things. Is it? Because I mean, it might be your habit right now. It might be what you're habituated into. That could be totally fair. But is that who you are? No. If you want to choose something else, you can choose something else. Will you have to build a new habit? Yes, you will have to build a new habit. Will you fall back into your old habits? Yes, you'll fall back into your old habits. But the point is that you move towards it. And if it is a thing, if it is your life vitality, I'm like, I started doing this thing a long time ago where I gave myself a personal KPI. So authenticity is my jam. And I created this personal KPI, which stands for key performance indicator, of what percentage of my day did I feel like I was being my authentic self. And so at the end of every day, I give myself a score. And I don't believe in 100% because I don't think we know enough about ourselves to be 100% authentic, because we are onions. But I give myself a score. And then I look at what were the things I did that made me feel inauthentic. Was it a conversation? Was it in a specific place? Was it with a specific person? Like, was it in a, I've done this with even like work activities. Right? Are there work activities where I feel like I can't show up as the authentic me? And then I have the visibility. And if my it is authenticity, I have now data to look at, like, what might I try? I remember doing this cardio dance class once, and I had just like, I was dealing with some grief at the time. And I went and I taught class, and I pasted a smile on my face, even though I felt like crying the entire time. And then I got out of it, and I was like, so curious, because if there's any people who would understand that I'm having a grief moment and this is not what I need right now, it would be my cardio dance peeps who have been taking my class for like 10 years, right? Those people know me, they appreciate me, they want to create space for me, yet still I like pasted this smile on my face and was like, this is what I have to do as a dance teacher. And so after that, I didn't do that again. But that doesn't mean I didn't do that the one time. Right? I did it the one time, and I could learn from it, and I can do something different as I go. But that's only because I've given myself this desire to look at my authenticity and ask the questions in a non-judgmental way, like not judging myself, but like, why did I do that? It's very curious. I didn't actually have a good reason to do it. So now I know next time I don't have to do it. But again, if we don't even know what it is, and society again, or marketers, we're responsible for a lot of nonsense, are trying to convince you that you need a relationship, right? You need to be, I've had this conversation with my younger sister who's 34, who feels like a complete failure because she's not married and doesn't own a house and like all, and I'm like, who says those things make you happy? I know lots of people who are married and own a house and are completely miserable. So like, just saying. But there's so much external narrative that tells you that this is what you should want. And as a woman, you should want to be a mom, right? If you don't want to have kids, there's something wrong with you. And I've talked to a lot of women lately that are like consistent. Everyone's always asking, when are you having kids? What if I don't want to? I still get asked, when are you having more? I'm not having any more kids. I had one. I love him. I'm good. Right? But like, who are you to decide how many kids I should want to have? Now, I'm at the place where I can feel very confident in saying like, this is my choice and I'm really good with it. And if you think that's dumb, then that's a you problem and it's not for me. But there's constantly, just like I said with my walks, right? There's constantly external circumstances that are like trying to drag us back into this hypnotic rhythm. Right? And whether you call it the devil or you call it the universe or whatever you want to call it, this happens. Right? There's this constant pull towards this hypnotic rhythm to just do stuff. So you get to the point, the number one regret of the dying is that people didn't do more of what they loved. Why does that happen? Because people are constantly getting pulled back into the hypnotic rhythm of doing what society expects them to do, or doing what their parents or their culture or their neighbors or whatever expect them to do, or for you to meet your own fake expectations of what it looks like to be a good wife or be a good husband or be a good parent or be a good whatever. And it wasn't even created by you. And then you get to the end of your life and you're like, well, shoot. Like, I really wish I hadn't done all of that stuff.
Exactly.
And one of the things about the show, the Stronger Futures Project, is that like, that is not the goal for this. We are not going to be the people who get to retirement and then are like, well, that sucked.
Right.
No. There are other options, folks.
That is absolutely the fact of the matter. And I can probably go on record, and I'll keep the person the relationship with that person to the side. But my son recently moved to France. He went on this voyage, 42 days of surfing in Costa Rica. Then he met a girl and he moved to France. He just like up and moved to France. Okay, he'd living in Florida, and then he meets this girl and he up and moves to France. And it took a little bit to adjust to that. But as I processed it, number one, I'm happy for him. I'm not happy for me because it's not just get on a plane and just go at a moment's notice and be there in 3 hours. It is get on a plane and be on a plane for
it's a long flight.
Yeah, a long time. But the idea is that he's 27 years old. He'll be 27. And he is doing what his heart is drawing him to. It's not just the girl, but it's the experience of a different environment, a different culture, and he's surfing these massive waves. He told me he got pummeled the other day. Now, that's an adventure. He is not allowing habituation to dictate the normal routine of mundane life. And I know that I shared him moving, and it's like, well, what the hell is he doing that for? And it's like, because he's going to live. Because I get on the call with 50 and 60-year-olds every single day. They hate their life. They regret their life because they did the same thing every day and they lost the glimmer. They lost the shine. And, it's one of those things that, one of the things that I want to say is that as you find yourself listening to this and you've heard the different examples and you've heard the different stories, is that you go, which way am I going home tonight? Take a different route. You're not going to get lost. Even if you're in a new town.
If you do, you have Google Maps on your phone.
Yeah. And
I
turn Google off. Anyway.
But if you got really lost, you could turn Google Maps on.
Yeah. If you got lost, don't follow the sun because your house is in the other direction. The sun is setting.
Rises in the east and sets in the west.
Yeah. So don't follow the sun. Don't let that be your marker. Okay. All paths will not lead to your home. So the idea is that maybe today you say, you know what, enough is enough. And just like your son was looking for the Dodge Durangos, his reticular activating system said, one day I want to look for Dodge Durangos. And they've been on the road constantly. And now you begin to notice them. One of the things that I do that is kind of a fun, annoying thing with my clients is I'll say, I want you to, between now and our next appointment, I want you to tell me all the green cars that you see. I want you to keep a tally of them. They go, I don't see green cars. I go, when we meet next week, I want to know how many you see. And they begin to look for them. And a year later, they're sending me a message saying, hey, I'm still seeing these stupid green cars. Thank you very much. Okay. But it is when our reticular activating system, the back of our brain, triggers. Now we begin to see things. And as you said, you look in the mirror and you see the same person is there, but you don't see the person. You just see. So my challenge is to, let's say you're in a relationship today and it's not going so well.
Or maybe it's going quite average.
And you want to spruce it up. Dabble some frankincense on your wrist on both sides.
Oh, my grandma loves the frankincense, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number one, frankincense oil is not a perfume. And it is a spiritual oil. And it's amazing what it does to this center in the brain called the olfactory, and what it does. And it changes not only your mood, your ideas, but it awakens your brain to see and feel something different. Don't put the perfume on. Get some essential oil and put it on and smell something different. And when you're doing your dishes, the mundane things, put your favorite song on the radio and let it play. I'll tell you one of the things that I love, and I'm going to close with this, and then I'll let, if you've got any last words. But one of the things that I so love, I'm a big Bono fan, and from day one when the Joshua Tree album was released, my favorite song is "I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For." Now, to this day, and I've sang that song hundreds of times, when I sing it, it still brings tears to my eyes because I see myself in a different vision, a different arena. Now my granddaughter, who is going to be 3, she loves that song. She's like, "Papa, put that song on, put the song on." And I'm singing it to her, right? And and I'm doing this, and I still haven't found what I'm looking. And she does the same, and she does this with her eyebrows and her mouth, and she just does this, and she's like, "Papa, can you sing that?" And that brings that spark back in. Change what is going on in your world, and it will change what you're experiencing, and habituation won't become part of your experience.
And I just, the last thing I want to share is like, one, I love that your son did that. When I came back from Croatia, I was like, let's move to Croatia. We'll figure it out when we get there. I'm like that. My husband is not like that. We did not move to Croatia. But now we have a deal that we're going to get a property in Croatia and then we can summer there. So teamwork. But it doesn't have, you don't have to be that drastic, that big with a change in order to shift what you're looking for. And so when you shared that example, Stanley, it made me feel, I remember, I so identified with the Belle's song lyrics from Beauty and the Beast, talking about how she wants adventure in the great wide somewhere more than she can tell. And my whole life, I was like, yes, I need adventure. And for a very long time, I interpreted adventure as travel. And so I did a lot of traveling. During COVID, that was not available. And
Right.
so I remember thinking about it and being like, well, this is like an undefined limitation here, right? Like, I don't know how long this is going to last. We thought it was going to be like a month, and now it's been like a year. And I don't know what's going on. So adventure through that channel is not available. What if there was adventure in other things? And so I went out and started looking for adventure in things. And what I realized is that I find adventure in people. I find adventure in conversation. I find adventure in ideas and brainstorming and all of these things. This is one of the reasons why I do shows like this, because it's an adventure for me. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know where we're going to go. That's an adventure. And so when you notice in your life that you might be craving something like that, we've used a lot of words today, right? Adventure, vitality, abundance, glimmer, right? Like whatever you feel like you want more of, start looking for it. Assume that it is available in your life today, that you could walk out your door and experience adventure. And then it's the first step in a new habit for you. That's all I'm going to say.
That's it. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay. Well, if you have enjoyed the show today, pass it along, to share it with somebody that you know could use something out of what we said. And if there's anything that you really like, leave a comment. I'd love to have a conversation. And if there's anything that you really didn't like, leave a comment as well. I'd love to explore it. I'm not above getting constructive criticism. I don't know everything. I want to be the idiot in the room, and I want to learn from others. So the idea is that I don't want my life to become habituated where I'm running through the same routine over and over again, and neither should you. So live a life without limits and be abundant. And until we meet next week,